Well, hello and welcome to the beautiful part of the day. You're all relaxed by now, waiting for what topic we're going to bring, who are we talking to, and how in depth we're going to talk about it. And today I am talking, we're talking about most of us, me, that's my pet subject. We're looking at education, narrowing it down to BCE. 2017 BCE obviously has started. Just under 500,000 candidates will be participating. There are people, some students who are having challenges as to logistics not arriving in time and all that. And then we'll look at the whole idea of BEC, where basically almost half are guaranteed to terminate their education life now. They may be about 13, 14, 15, 16 at the most, and that will be the end of their basic education. They will now have to find money and then continue to SSS if they wish. People are saying, listen, basic education should be all the way through to SS, because the countries with which we are competing with, some of them have a basic education of a first degree. And if we are in a global village, what human resource are we going to produce so that we can also compete on a level playing ground? Education is my pet subject, and we can talk education all day. When I come back, I have two fine guests in the house to talk education. My name is Nsowah, the fourth chief of the famous Little Republic of Edumasa, and your host. Don't go away, we're coming back. Well, thank you very much for staying. 2017 BC, and just under 500,000 candidates are going to be writing. Everybody's saying guarantee 50% will not make the mark, they will fall off, and the chances of them getting back into mainstream education is very, very difficult. We shouldn't play with education. Education is important. With me in the house, if I may say, is Bright Appiah, Executive Director, Child's Right International. You're welcome. It's been ages, Afishiapa. It's been ages. It's been ages. And then my own senior brother, Mr. Michael Nsowah, former Director of GES, very, very passionate educationist, if I may introduce him as such. Mr. Nsowah, you're welcome.
Thank you, Nana.
And so let me start with you with the idea of BEC. First of all, finding out why, BEC didn't go further, but it truncates at, just 3 years of secondary school, it truncates, because the chances of continuing become so difficult. I mean, why did they put it there?
You mean the 3 years?
Yeah, the 3 years instead of maybe after 5 years. Why didn't they replace it with the O level, put it at 5 years, and then if you wanted to do 2, you go and do?
Well, when 5 years was about, it was replaced with 4 years.
Okay.
1972, 74, Jobo Committee recommended 4 years. 2 years lower secondary and 2 years upper secondary, 4 years.
Okay.
And this was what was brought back in 2007, when the Kufuor administration again went back to 4 years. So, and then it was brought back to 3 years.
Okay.
So we are going forwards and backwards.
Forwards and backwards, more of a political decision. Anyway, but what's happening? I mean, there are certain students that are not getting their logistics.
You mean the exam?
Yeah, the exam.
Actually, everything is on course except that, because the people who are in charge now, I always think that I'm still in active service. The people who are in charge now, we want to make sure everything, they don't leave anything to chance because of the past history. For instance, if you go to the depot, if you are not accompanied, if your police guard is not there, you cannot take the paper, because you need the police to be with you to carry the bag which contains the paper. And sometimes the distances between the depot and are varied. Some schools are closer to the others are far away from the depot. So you get this in. But as soon as you get to the center, and then if you are 10, 15 minutes late, yes, you continue writing as long as the children don't go out. There's no cause for alarm.
And I hear this year the children are complaining that the exams are too hard. Is it that because there's no leakage or is that there's no leakage or ill preparation?
Well, maybe. Well, I wouldn't say ill preparation, but just that maybe they've been hoping to get the Appiah, and now there's no Appiah,
so they have to learn hard. Brad, let me engage you here, but there's a school of thought that says, listen, this BECE, it's not fair on the children, and that it's literally terminating. I mean, if you're saying that's the end of your basic education, at that age is just too young. The child is just too ill prepared, not ready for anything, and that cannot be your basic education.
Yeah, well, that is true. Our system, we have structured the system in such a way that at the point, some people must drop out. That is the kind of system that we have. But we also know that the GHS system has its own concept that the system want to roll out, where some would acquire technical skills in order to also fit into the system because of the way we have structured the system. And those who they claim to be brilliant will still have to continue in terms of the grammar type of education and all that. But with the practice that we've given to it, I don't think that we have arrived at a situation where we can say that we have achieved that objective of establishing the GHS system. No, so if you look at the various reports that have been, that Mr. Nsowah also talked about, you can talk about the Jobo report, you can talk about the Anama report. It's since 1951. We've had all kinds of reforms in relation to our education. And one thing that runs through has to do with quality. How then do we improve quality of education? So the issue is that we'd only have to write at the back of it to say that whatever system that we establish, is it giving us the kind of result that we want? If not, then we'd have to revise our note and then see how best we can place the education at a level where we can say that we are achieving the kind of quality that we want. Because if you truncate it, the basic school, if you truncate it at GHS level, is it giving you the kind of results where people would have the skill to be able to divert into other areas and all that? If not, then we'd have to extend it. So if you look at the strategic plan of the Ministry of Education, which is also targeting lifelong learning, then it gives you the idea that indeed the system has prepared children very well in order to fit in. So these are the policy arrangement. But if you look at the implementation processes, there are issues that for me, we need to deal with as people, so that if it is the 3 years that we want to go, is it okay? Is the 4 years that we want to go, even at the secondary school level, is it okay? And if you look at even how we have structured the Constitution, if you make reference to the Article 28 and then the 35, it gives you a sense that even the state itself have made provision. If you are not getting the result that we want, then we can expand the free compulsory basic education to a certain level, which indeed the current government has given a promise to that, saying that they're going to redefine the basic education to secondary school level. So which means that for me, if once you are redefining something, then it means that you are changing the whole system, which of course would also affect examination. So if we realize that we are not getting the results at the GHS level, and we are expanding it to the secondary school level, then I'm expecting that the system will be able to do away with that examination, so that once you start from day one, you know that you end your basic education at the secondary school level. So those are the expectations. I don't know how the system is going to accept that, but if you look at the policy direction that has been given to this particular enrollment of children to go to the SHS, it is also based on the pass mark. So there are still issues that we have to raise. But my concern is that once every single child is sitting for exams, the tendency is that we are hoping that all of them will pass and then have access to that free secondary education that we're all talking about. So there are issues that we have to discuss in the system and see how best we can improve it. And for me, one of the things that we have to do away with, if you really want to define basic education to the secondary school level, then we have to remove that barrier from it, so that once you start from day one, you'd have to complete at the SHS level?
Same question I was just going to ask. So was that? I mean, if it's going to be free, is it going to be only free if you're able to pass to get it free, or?
No, by redefining basic education, what the government is seeking to do is, what we have now does not help the products of the system. One, the children come out at age 15, 14. They cannot work. If we employ them, that is child labor. Once you employ them, it's child labor.
Yeah.
Two, the certificate they are holding will not take them anywhere. Nobody will employ them, even if they want to. If you want to break the law and employ them. Because now, if you look at adverts in the papers, drivers, messengers, what, they are all asking for WASI. So it means that basic, which everybody is entitled to, is worthless now. So the government wants to move it to secondary level. That is, once you finish secondary school, even if you don't go on, then you can be employed at the lower levels of the job market. So that is basically what is. However, they say a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a step, and a bold step is being taken. For instance, if you look at the numbers, 468,000 writing the exam.
468.
We are projecting about 350,000 to be absorbed into the system, because we don't have places for all of them. They were not in government, or we were not in government, therefore we could not have made arrangements to take care of all the numbers that are going to write the exam. So for this year, we'll continue the system which is in existence, that when the exam is done, those who, well, we look at the number, and then you can draw your pass mark or pass aggregates, and then they will be admitted, absorbed into the system. But anybody who is selected to go to secondary school will go to secondary school, and all the fees will be taken care of by the government.
So let me take you back, since I mean you're very good with history. At which point do we adopt this culture of quantity, where quality is, just a slogan, but it's all quantity, quantity. Oh, last year enrollment was 10. This year enrollment is 200, and next year we're even projecting enrollment to be 400. It's just the quantity, quantity, quantity. But previous, you see somebody writing, so he only occurs on 4, but then he can read and write perfectly. So when did we change from quality to this?
No, we haven't
quantity?
changed. To deliver an education, there are 3 pillars. 3: access, quality, and management. If any of these pillars is not there, then you are not delivering education. If you want to give free education to all children that are born into this country, up to secondary level. So you need to make sure there are places for them to sit, classrooms, so on and so forth. But they cannot just sit in the classroom. They must learn. And by learn, that is where quality comes in. They need teachers. They need books. They need, other teaching materials, if I may put it that way. And then management. Who manages all these things that we are talking about? Who manages the money that is going to be used to put up classrooms and so on? Who manages the money that is going to buy all the equipment and so on? Who manages how teachers are going to train, and how are they going to be distributed and so on? These are things that, yes, we are still struggling. I must admit, we are still struggling, because we continue to say, oh, we have 40,000 vacancies. Really? If we have 40,000 vacancies, so in how many years are we going to, because every classroom is supposed to have a qualified teacher, and by qualified, a trained teacher by Ghanaian standards. And in Ghana now, the minimum qualification to teach in our schools is diploma. So do you have diploma at least in all schools in Ghana? That is the challenge we have. So that is what we're working towards, because without that, we'll continue to have this disparity, because there are areas where there are no teachers. If there are teachers, there'll be one for the whole school, one qualified teacher for a whole primary school of 6 classrooms. And then the rest are untrained, people, which we call people teachers. It means you cannot compare that school to another, and therefore you're working towards. Along the line, several measures were put in place, like sponsorship. Because it was becoming difficult to get teachers in certain areas, this program was to get the district assemblies, as part of this decentralization, district assemblies to sponsor candidates who, on completion of their courses, will come back. Because when you train somebody in Accra, Kumasi, and you want him to go to Bontomurusu, it becomes a problem. Well, there's only a few who are, you say we are all patriotic. Maybe we don't have that in many Ghanaians, so that is what we need to work with.
So if you get a local person, sponsor his education.
Who go through a proper training.
They're more likely to go back to the area.
Yes, that is where you come from, and to go back and help your people.
But Mr. Nsowah, we've tried that system before, where the district assembly can sponsor people to go to training colleges and then come back to render services to the community. That has been in the system, where they give money for them to do that.
No,
but what has happened is that...
I'm not cutting you short.
Yeah.
You see, when that program was, there was no money because the students were still going to receive their normal allowances.
Exactly.
Then, to be able, the politicians stepped in and tried to,
Exactly.
And that is where the program failed.
Yeah,
because some assemblies could not. And therefore,
yeah, exactly. That's the point that I want to raise, because the issue of disparity that exists between the assemblies. For instance, if you pick AMA was not interested in the program, but they get teachers because the rural district would train these teachers. Then the privileged ones would absorb them in the system, because already people want to come to the cities to run their lives and all that. So that is what made the program to fail, because the monitoring system was not so much effective. For instance, if you are in a particular district, you don't have jurisdiction of another district. So whatever they decide to do, that's what they do. But if there's a relationship between the two districts or all the districts, so that if District A trains a teacher, and you expect that teacher will come back and provide services to the community, and the person moves to District A, at least there should be some kind of monitoring system to detect that this particular person who has been trained by District A is in District B working. Of course, which means that the District B is benefiting from the services of the person at the detriment of the District A. So these are kind of systems that we want to put in place. So if you look at most of our policy implementation, you realize that some of them fail because of implementation, because of monitoring. We don't really put in the measures in place to ensure that at least we enforce some of these provisions. And then also we tried as much as possible to pilot most of our policies for a long period. So at a point, people feel that, if nobody is monitoring me, then I can do whatever we want to. That is why other deprived districts also lost interest in terms of the support that they can give to support these teachers and all that. But if you look at the new decentralization policy that is coming, I think that the institutions that have been mandated to do their work would more or less monitor that, because now it is a district that is going to pay teachers. So at the end of the day, at least they know that you are from this particular district, and then you are rendering service in this particular district. And even if you go here, at least they will be able to detect and monitor. And if there's anything that they have to slap you with, they will do so. So that's the kind of system that we want to see in terms of how we deal with issues concerning children, because the teacher is very key in the process. Just as
teacher is the blood.
Yes. Teachers are very, very, very key. So we cannot just take that for granted.
I need to take a break, but Mr. Nsowah, just quickly, can there be a system where if a Sojaman trained a teacher, he's allowed to keep the teacher for maybe 8 years before the teacher can start moving about so that they can benefit?
You see, these are some of the things that when it came to the implementation, those who took over did not understand the whole system. In fact, there was a key word, attraction. How do you attract teachers to a Sojaman? So, for instance, now we're talking about the new decentralization. Government is going to send money to all the constituencies. Is it possible for them to sit down and say, look, we don't have teachers. The basic salary for all teachers in Ghana is X. We will add X plus 1 because we need to attract teachers. So salaries will not be across board because we have decentralized. Because we need teachers, we put all our efforts in attracting teachers, and therefore salaries will be higher, and people will be, because everybody wants to get more money. And that is one of the issues that did not go down, or people did not actually head on to, and therefore the whole thing.
Let me take a quick break here, and when I come, I have 2 questions. But one of the questions I want to put to Ms. Nsowah is, what's the purpose of our education? Let's say if you are the education ombudsman, what did they tell you? That, what's the purpose of the education? So that when you are in your office, you know that, look, in Ghana or in wherever it is you are, this is the purpose of education. So let's move along that line. Don't move. Yeah, the conversation never stops. It's just that the break comes in and then we come back. But before the break, I was just trying to find out what's the purpose of our education. And since Mr. Nsowah has, been the ombudsman of education, let's find out, maybe in your prospectus, they say, look, in Ghana, we are going agrarian, or we are going chemical, we are going mining.
There are 2 answers to your question. What is the purpose of education? That is a general question. Of course, education is to prepare people to be able to do. But what is the purpose of, what does Ghana want?
Of our education.
And maybe at this stage, I would say that we need to go back to the aim of the current government. What does the current government hope to achieve? They hope to actually diversify the curriculum of Ghana, Ghana's education system, so that we put more emphasis on technical, vocational, and mathematics education. So that is what, that is the aim of this government now.
So that we can channel education towards that. But is it trickling down so that even the cleaner in the school knows that this is it? Because if we all don't buy into the vision, and you're just up there dreaming, you have an Nkrumah victim where, you are there, you are the only one seeing whatever it is you're seeing, and everybody's thinking you're wasting their time. Yeah,
that's why I think Bright was trying to say that, look, we need to review the curriculum. And by reviewing the curriculum, you see, sometimes it's the academicians, they are responsible for all this. By the time they finish the review, you have more areas to cover. I don't know how to describe it because I find it strange. For instance, if I'm part and I come up with a new curriculum which has 10 disciplines, if you like, why? I think people should ask me, when you were in school, how many disciplines did you study? When I was in school, common entrance, it was 2 English, math plus aptitude tests. Now they are writing 7, 8, 9 subjects. Why? Ask yourself why. It is because our concept of curriculum is, this is good, that is good. They are doing it in the US, they are doing it in Australia, they are doing it. So everything outside is good. So we bring them in and the pot becomes full. We need to look at what is critical in curriculum development is. What knowledge is worthwhile for this country? We call it worthwhile knowledge. It is not the number of subjects, but those critical areas. Fortunately, Ghana was coming close to it, that we defined our system in 4 main areas: English, if you say literacy, numeracy, the environment, science, and then social studies, the cultural development, history, and so on and so forth. Why have we added so many that the children sometimes they will have to do extra classes to the extent that nursery and KG children also do it? Why? You ask yourself why? And this should be part of the review. We don't have to just be adding subjects because we think are they worthwhile? Would they support? Because if you do, if your foundation in mathematics and science is good at the lower levels, you can branch to any of the areas in science, physics, chemistry. But immediately by P60, you start talking about biology, physics, chemistry. Why? It doesn't happen in other countries which we admire. It doesn't happen. So it is important that we do that.
Right. I mean, you said that the teacher is literally the bloodline, which I agree. I mean, without the teacher, we are all wasting our time. We are all wasting our time, and so it boils down to education. Are we bold enough to sit and say, "Listen, we are really playing a dangerous game here, where we have an elitist education system, very widespread, very, very widespread elitist education system where, you have where the poor goes and then you have where the privilege goes." I know that there are privileged schools dotted all over the world, but, they're just dotted, really, really privileged ones dotted. But generally, if we all lived in Kokomlimli, from the MP's son, the doctor's son, the street sweeper's son, will all go to that school in Kokomlimli and all graduate and come out. Are we aiming to have that sort of thing here, or is it that, well, I know somebody who knows somebody, so I'm going to a privileged school. If not, you go to some cluster of schools and hope to God that you make it?
Yes, one of the things that for me we should clearly put on the table is that education is a right. Mm-hmm. And we've gone to the extent of guaranteeing the right to make it free and compulsory. So it means that we have opened the environment for, if you are a child in Ghana, you have a right to access education, which nobody can deny you of that. Then again, we have also made it that government is going to be responsible for providing education. And anybody who wants to participate in the process must seek government approval in doing so. So if you look at, for instance, the Education Act, it gives provision for private participation in providing education, which of course says that what the mandate of the GSS is to monitor how they run it, and then whether it conforms to the vision of the nation. So we have, first of all, guaranteed the right to education to our children. Then again, we have also given alternative in terms of where you'd want to go. So if you look at all government schools, you cannot say that, depending on the environment, of course, but generally you would classify it as being for a middle class and then the lower class. And a lot of people are sending their children to the private schools, which you will call the elite and all that. But these people are also providing services. But you see, the irony is that teachers who are trained are more in the public schools than even the private schools. And the teachers who are even in the private schools are not as trained as teachers who are in the public schools and all that. But the outcome differ and all that. So there's a lot of things that we have to do in the system. There's a lot of things that we have to equip out of the system to be able to get things done clearly. If we are guaranteeing education, then of course we'd have to make the environment conducive for the well-being of children. That is why we as civil society support the idea that if you want to be a teacher, you need to be certified to be a teacher, and the system must pay you well. That is why we made a proposal to government that, look, we are not interested in you paying the teacher's allowance. But rather, what we can do, what we are proposing is that let the teacher come out, the professional teacher, as somebody who has gone to study law, medicine, or who is an economist, come out and let the system pay you well to deliver the services that you want to deliver. So that at the end of the day, when people are employed, they know that they are doing work, and the government will also have the responsibility of monitoring them. So these are things that for me, we'd have to discuss in the system to see how best we can adjust things. Because the new policy direction is that from basic level is going to be up to the secondary school. And there are a lot of issues that we have to, because Mr. Nsowah himself knows that we had issues with the implementation of the capitation grant. So the lessons that we cannot take it for granted in moving forward with this particular policy. So we have to learn from those lessons and then see how best, because there are instances where even the capitation grant will go, and then which is meant for specific things, but the head teacher will just decide what to use the money for. Even before the money gets down there, even those who are at the top there they were deducting sports because it's a regional and then it's a zonal and then a regional staff. They were deducted until government decided that no, you'd have to send all the money down there for them. We can still have some experiences with this. So there's a lot of things that we have to discuss right from the entry point to the level where we can guarantee that at least the environment is good for our children. So we are hoping that when all these things are done, then we can also open up the curriculum to redefine it, because the children are doing so many things at that level, which sometimes I ask myself, why are we overburdening our children with all these things? You go to nursery school and these children are writing exams. they write exams, and I'm like, how do you ask somebody who is 3 years or 4 years to write exams? Because even in America, before you even go to a basic level, you have to be 4 years or 5 years before you can even enter. Because the system requires that you experience life at home before you enter the system. Because by then, your mind will be open up to do it. But now we have children at age 6 months who go to school in this country, 1 year who go to school and all that. So we are just training the children to be more like the grammar, to have that grammar type. When the child can speak good English, then the child is intelligent and all that. These are things that we create to. So this has also affected the kind of product that comes out. That is why the industry cannot even get people to employ, because we are training people to have that grammar type of education, speak good English, and then you are good to go. So there's a lot of things that for me we'd have to look at in the system, where industry must come on board, publishers must come on board to identify children who can do specific things in that area, so that they specialize. Because if you go to if you pick Harvard, you pick most of these big universities, what they do is that they even go to the colleges and then the high schools to identify students that if you are good in mathematics, then they begin to monitor you from there. And they have even already given you admission to enter to those schools, because they are monitoring you from there. And the industry also goes back to look for those people and then engage them. And they are paying you, but you are in school, because they believe that once you come out of school, you become productive to the company or the system and all that. So that at least we can specialize. But allowing children to do all kinds of courses at that level, I think that the basic thing that for me, in my opinion, if I'm allowed to say it, is to look, one has to look at science, very, very, very important, mathematics, and then probably social studies. These are things that for me, we need to equip our children with, so that when they go into other areas, they can specialize and do the kind of thing that they want to do.
So this guarantee, education being a right, free and compulsory, is very silent on the quality. Is that why we are busily just, let's get the numbers in? Let's look, even BC, forget about BC, let them, but I mean, there are BC candidates who cannot read and write.
Of course.
And that's basically like us saying that when we were in Form 3, I mean, it is impossible to be in Form 3 and cannot read and write. It's impossible. But, it
has to do with management. And management is not only at the school level. Management from the very top. There's education budgets. Schools need to be supplied with books. And we mean all schools. How come when you go to certain places they don't have anything? Because there's a manager who has to do this job and who is not doing his job or a job, and yet nobody say anything. Ghana's education system will improve if this country goes fully decentralized. The districts or the assemblies will have to decide, do they want to be on top or at the bottom? There will be competition. And then they will learn to use the money wisely. You don't sit in Accra and buy books for everybody with books. We don't sit in a car and think that this, oh, they need a 4x4 car, you buy. Why do you buy it here? Why don't you allow the districts to decide that for this year we don't want a vehicle? We want to put all our money into equipping the schools. Maybe next year, yes. But if the national budget, the use of the national is decided at the top for everybody, whether you like it or not, just like the assemblies, somebody buys excavators for every. Well, why? Who decides for the assemblies? Because if we go fully descended, then we'll be encouraging competition. Do you want your district, the results from your district?
Do you think central government will actually do that, take a big chunk of their budget and say, look, I don't want to have control over this, I've given it to you, you go and sort yourself out?
Then what is the purpose of asking districts and regions to prepare budgets? And then they call a composite budget, which will end up at the national, because that is the money they want to use. If you cannot even provide it, and you can provide half of that, then they will go back and say, okay, because the nation doesn't have all the money, and this is what we got, this is where we are going to put it's a collective decision at the district, that this is what they want to do, so that you'll be able to improve not only education, even health and all that. But where somebody decides, oh, we're going to build a road for you, who says that is their priority? People don't get water and you say road.
You see, I just want to add to what Mr. Nsowah is saying. Sometimes the competition is also is relevant in the system, and I think that one of the difficulties that we've had is for the central government to just give out power. It's very difficult, because when we're going through we were doing the consultation on the decentralization program, these were things that were coming out.
Because education is a lot of money.
Exactly. So what I have seen other countries do, I just returned from a trip to just study how their system operates. And the central government can create a fund, and that fund is very competitive based on your programs that you have before you can get it. There's a threshold that all of you can get. But for you to get another threshold, then your programs and activities must be very innovative to address the needs of children within the school system, or the results that you are producing before you can get that. So once we are able to do that within a decentralization system, a lot of districts will be compelled to be innovative in terms of the program that they run. But these are discussions that we have to hold, and then see how best we can implement the policy that will help. Just as he said, if we decentralize, I think that will resolve a lot of things, because the teacher who lives in a very remote area would go to the district, will not get services, would come to the region, will not get services, would end up in Greater Accra, the headquarters, before, and even for the person to see the director or whoever is in charge, would take the person about 2 or 3 days to do that. So all the time that person has spent out of the classroom, the person is spending out of the hours that have been allocated for the children. So once we are able to bring services to these people close to them, then I think that we will start the process of resolving some of the issues that we are facing now.
So are we going to be bold enough or brave enough maybe next year say, listen, no more BCE, just go?
Oh, that will eventually come.
That is my belief.
That is because
I'm hoping
right now we don't have enough infrastructure to accommodate all the candidates. Now you only have to look at the projection from class 1. Nationwide, how many pupils are in class 1? And in 9 years, they will be knocking at the doors of secondary schools. So if you project, you'll be able to provide the necessary infrastructure to absorb all of them, and then because everybody is transiting from JHS 3 to SHS 1, then certainly there will have to be some form of exam, and not a selection exam with a cutoff point. A selection exam that will select you into the program that you are inclined, rather than, so everybody will have the opportunity to access secondary education, but then you will be placed in your field of where your talents
There's another challenge or another devil which we are not, again, we're not looking at, is population growth.
Of course.
And the speed with which it's growing.
Yes.
Are we ever going to build enough classrooms and train enough teachers to mop up all this growth? Because there hasn't been any campaign to go and slow down fertility.
Well, as I know in in the Ministry of Education, our projections are based on the 2.7% population growth. That's what we used. I don't know whether it's gone beyond that.
I think it's
our population, because now the population of Ghana, if you pick people who are below the age of 19 years, it's 48% of the total population of Ghana.
Yeah,
and this is the time that is the time that a lot, so about 48% of our children are still in school, and the state must cater for them.
Take care of them.
And it's very difficult. That's why sometimes when you see government implementing certain policies, they face difficulties. So I'm happy that you brought that matter, because we'll be so silent on that in terms of how we can regulate our population growth and all that. Because, for instance, the census that they took within 10 years, the growth rate is so high that we cannot just imagine that we even get to that level. Now the population is almost about 25, 30 million, which of course we cannot even give estimate to it and all that. And you have over 48% of our population being young, very young population and all that. So the investment will be very heavy. So we also have to look at, if we really want to improve quality and all that, then there should be systems in place to also regulate our population growth in this country. Then on the basis of that, if policies are going to be free in terms of the services that we provide, then the state should be responsible to say that this is the quota that I can take care of. If I want to cover everybody, then of course, the alternative for me is to regulate the growth. But if I think that this is the quota that I want to take out of the population, then this is what I'm doing to service these people and all that. But now, as a country, we look at the bigger picture of issues.
See, that's where my quantity quality thing comes back
we
again.
always look at the bigger picture. Because if, for instance, when we implemented the capitation grant, the focus was on access. And at the point, we even achieved 100% access in most of the schools. The highest that we came was about 98%, which we were applauded for at the international level. But in the process, we also realized that, yes, we were having a lot of people in the system, but the product that we were turning out were not matching the enrollment that we were doing. So it means that there are certain things that we need to do. So that is where the question comes back to the teacher. You see, the teacher ratio it went up to even 120 children per teacher, and I think that in some places, yes, I think that it's so high, so for you to get the kind of result that you want, and there are other areas to that you see the turnout to be very low. So we need to see how best we can rationalize the system to give fairness for the teachers to at least monitor children, and then to be able to provide the services that they need. So for me, we have a long way to go, but I believe that we need to start from somewhere. Infrastructure development is one key thing that we've been talking about. And just as Mr. Nsowah is saying, most of the secondary schools that we have in this country, if you are able to expand them, will be enough to accommodate all these 400,000 children that we are talking about. But government is always interested in building new schools. For instance, the day schools that the government built, we told them that, look, there's no need for you to have a new schools in new sites and all that. There are certain places that are justified that you need to set up a school because it's a deprived area.
Branding alone.
Exactly.
So if you cited one in Accra Academy, all of a sudden the child is going to Accra Academy, but it's the same E-block.
Exactly.
Mentality and orientation.
Exactly. So we made a proposal to government that, look, the schools, they have lands. They are not using it. So the only thing that you have to do, which of course the Anamwa Menses Committee report recommended when it came to the 4-year and then the 3-year, that okay, if you feel that you want to go 4 years, then there's a need for you to pay attention to infrastructure development. Did we do that to be able to run? Because the issue of infrastructure became an issue because the plan of the schools were for 3 years. Now we are going 4 years, so we need to also have extra classrooms and all that. So these are policy issues that, for me, let's visit all them. If you really want to address issues concerning education, then let's visit the various reports that have been made by
I don't want to say, I don't want to say wickedness, but is it ignorance? Because I think we're playing with fire when it comes to education, and it will come back and bite us. And I keep saying that every 2 years you drive around the estate and everybody puts two brakes on their wall. Every 2 years you drive, walls are going up
for protection.
For protection, instead of making sure that everybody is trained and well formed and balanced, we are all hiding and living in gated communities.
Yeah, because development has always, well, since independence, has always been in the capitals.
So, but with education,
like Bright was saying, we have schools, so many of them. Last year, when I did my analysis, there were about 130 schools in Ghana where the population was less than 500.
You see?
Some schools are bursting, 3,000, almost 4,000. Why? Because they are not attractive. So if we make a conscious effort to develop these, low grade, if you like, schools, or parents will want their children to go to school where there's some attraction. But where a middle school is converted into a secondary school, you will struggle before you get students to attend. So why don't you continuously upgrade these schools rather than going for new ones? Why? New ones are now being built where there's already existing deprived school in an area where there's a hedge of the old, between the old school and the newly built school. Why? What is the sense in it? When you can add this to that, so that then it becomes attractive for the parents to send their children to that school, rather than who will want to send his or a child to a middle school which they went in some 50 years ago and still sitting there with no addition. Nobody will do that. We have to upgrade so that development is spread not only in Accra and Kumasi and Takoradi, but everywhere. And then people will feel comfortable to go to school in those areas rather than always journeying to Cape Coast.
Well, wishing all teachers luck and, asking that the be patient with the children, and hopefully we can set a positive record this year, get most of the children to pass. And then we ask those in the educational fraternities to make it easier for the children to come back in, some exams or something that allows you to come back into mainstream and carry on. And I also encourage teachers and educationists that, it's not a sin to be a carpenter, it's not a sin to be a plumber. So let's encourage our children to diversify. There isn't enough production.
Everything to invest in.
Yeah, there isn't enough things being produced in this country to be marketed. Everybody's doing marketing, HR, PR, marketing, HR, and they join the queue of unemployed people. But we wish you all the luck, those who are writing exams. We know you do the best. And I always give you this number before I go. It's the number for Tanti's Fashions. We'll make my shirts for the show. 024-366-2001. 024-366-2001. Tanti's Fashion. They make my shirts for the show. I want to say thank you very much to Mr. Michael Nsowah, former director GES, and Mr. Bright Appiah, executive director Child Rights International. Gentlemen, thank you so much. And to you at home, tomorrow we'll be back to do this all over again. Thank you for watching.